Hello y'all, another day to come paint with Geno. We're going to put paint to canvas. But I got to start this one off by saying something for you women out there. Man, this little mic right here and this hair right here, first time I've grew it out since high school, and I'm thinking about cutting it off. It's a pain in the butt just trying to put my hair, this wire thing under my hair. Anyway, we fixing to get some painting done. I just had to throw that out there. Alright, so the last video, we did a lot of foliage on trees. We're going to continue that. It's a continuation of what we did last time because I had a lot of feedback of people liking the foliage. So many times we get caught up in doing people, barns, houses, interesting things. Well, the trees in a painting should be just as interesting to you as anything else on that painting. I believe in every square inch on that painting, whatever size it is, should be treated the same as doing the lips on a Santa Claus. And I mean that literally. You have to take everything on that canvas very serious, in my opinion, to make a masterpiece. And every time you paint, even if it's for practice, paint a masterpiece. We always put our best into everything we do every time we pick up a brush. It's important. Now, this is all my opinion, y'all. Remember that whenever I'm talking. I get very passionate about my art. If you ever meet me out there in the real world doing other things, you'll find out real quick I know something or I don't know something. But anything I do, I'm going to do my best. You can count on that. And I was just brought up that way. So I don't expect you guys that are following me to think anything different. I'm always going to expect your best. So remember this. When I'm doing these leaves up here in just a minute, these little foliage and leaves and all that stuff on the tree, it starts off with I'm just working it. It's all about layers. But my end result should look the way I want it to look like if I was sitting in this picture. And that's how another thing I wanted to tell y'all. You should feel like you're sitting in this picture wherever you're at and you're painting it. You should be there. How can your viewers, people that walk up to your painting, feel like they're looking at what you created? You have to bring them into your world, and the best way to do that is smell, touch, feel, all the things that would really exist in the real world. Alright, so let's get in here and do it. We'll come back out and talk in a minute, but let's get in here and paint right now. Alright, so we're going to begin right in here, in this area right in here. We did some of this over here last video. Now I want to come into this area. And y'all, I want to tell you something. I can't stress enough. We talked about the greens on the last video, and then the oranges, how the light pulls it in. It's all about your lighting. So I'll pull it back out in a little bit and let y'all see this lighting again, but it's going to be about adding these oranges to everything. So today I'm going to work a little bit faster than last video. Hopefully most of you guys seen the last video, but I started off with some greens, and now I'm going to start working into the yellow oranges as we work. Now, if you'll watch, I like to work top down. That way my hand's not constantly in the paint. So you're going to see me come right in here like this and always work down so that my hand's not having to go up into the paint. That's always a good thing to do. Now I'm just going to throw a couple highlights on here to make sure I see all of my grouping areas where I want to hit this area. And I'll do a little bit of what I call the guts of it, which is in the center of your darks. Most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, I work out of my darks. Y'all, it is so hard to try to bleed light back into, darks back into your light. So big fan of working my darks first. So you'll always see my paintings are very dark early on from the get-go. Now I'm also going to bleed some more. If you look at this side, it wasn't quite prepared like this first set that I did. It's really dark. I really never prepared this as like a sketch. So you're going to see me start adding some darks here as I work. I'm just going to throw some fillers in right now. When you first start, it's like anything else. When I tell my students, it's if you was a sculptor, you wouldn't start off with a little bitty tiny chisel. You start off with a jackhammer. You know, you got to knock the big pieces off. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically grouping areas. Now, if you're a beginner artist, that probably ain't gonna make much sense to you, and the way I talk probably ain't gonna make much sense to you either. So what I'm saying is, you see this big area right here, y'all? Okay, it's just empty with darks. I'm gonna bring my lights into these darks. So what I call the guts would be this center part right here. Obviously that's an edge. So the guts of the painting, that I call it, would be this center part. And what we have is grouping. Now, like I just said though, I'm gonna set this one up a little bit different than what the last video. I'm really dark in this area. So what I'm gonna do is start simply, you know, bringing in a little bit of under detail, the under foliage. So it looks like there's a lot of foliage on this tree. It may be fall, but all the leaves ain't fell by far. It's just turning fall. These trees are still full. I'm gonna have leaves on the ground. That makes a beautiful painting too. It actually fills it up, puts a lot of detail in it. So as you can tell, I'm just gonna slowly bring in my detail. Now here I'm gonna start doing more of the guts, and this just simply starts getting that grouping that I showed y'all on the last video. I'm gonna start putting together some groups, and it's just basically a group of area where the leaves are, you know, coming in full. Now just keep watching. I'm going to work a little bit faster on this video than I did last time. So at first you'll be like, I don't see where it's going. And a lot of new students or beginners, they don't, you know, they anticipating something to happen really quick so they can start seeing results. That's probably one of your worst enemies, if you want to call it that, in art, is trying to get somewhere too fast. I see it all the time with my students. They want results quick. And then with what happens with newer students, so if you're new, you probably experienced this before, is you start seeing issues that you probably wouldn't have if you took your time and set it up correctly. And it's like anything we do in life, I guess. You know, if you rush through it, you get a rush job, and a rush job usually don't end up with too good of results. Art's something you gotta just kind of let it unfold, and it talks to you. If you'll listen to it, it'll tell you what it needs. So what I'm doing now, you can see I've worked out of my darks a little bit for some under foliage, and I'm still gonna stay in them darks a little bit. The paints that I'm using right now is mostly Payne's Gray, cadmium orange, burnt sienna, and cadmium yellow. This is all acrylic painting. I've done oils for years when I first started, but I really fell in love with acrylic paints because they dry so fast. The biggest thing is knowing how to use your water. And when I start the art videos here soon, trust me, it'll be something y'all want to invest in. If you're really serious about getting good at this, I'll be able to show you more in detail of everything that I do. These tutorials are fun and I'm loving doing it, but I can't really go as depth as I'd like to do. But anyway, so right back in here, you can see I'm starting to get some under foliage developing. Starting to fill it up a little bit without going too light too quick. When y'all see me in a minute start to do the details, you'll understand exactly what it is. Now, a lot of artists, and I've watched a lot of videos through the years of other artists, and it's interesting. Anytime I can try to learn something, I'm going to learn something. It wasn't always that way with my work, but what I noticed though in a lot of art videos is you don't see everything they did. You'll see clips, pieces, and they'll come back and the whole thing will be kind of done. I wanted to show y'all everything that I do from start to finish. And I'm not going to say I might not get into some of that. Eventually it might be certain paintings that I do that ends up that way. But for the most part, I think you guys need to recognize exactly how it should look. So you've seen this start off with just darks, just really dark. At any time I can bring back some darks too if need be, and I will. Right up in here, I'll push darks back into it and I'll feed it. I call it just feeding the painting as it needs it. Now, I'm going to bring a little bit of greens in here as an undergrowth because we are close enough that you can see real colors. So I'm gonna see these greens. I don't know if y'all can see. Yeah, you can see it. So these greens right in here. So now I can just feed some of these greens. I'll kind of match that other side, and it really gets cool, y'all, when we start filling in the gaps. This will be a nice little piece. So I might end up painting all this without you guys seeing it, but you're going to understand how all of this was developed. This is really about how I do this. So now I'm going to come in here and start working in some color, some greens, just it's kind of dark, so I can work them greens in, and that's going to give it that blend of shade. What's really happening, y'all, is the sunlight's bringing this light in here, so the foliage itself darkens itself. So now if you don't have shadow, you don't have anything. So right in that little pocket right in there, I'm going to start bringing in some darks and just kind of feed it a little bit. And I'm going to show y'all how the details on the front and the back are just as important. So many artist videos I watch, and I'm not knocking anybody, y'all don't hear me wrong. I just hear things that I've always said I wouldn't do if I ever did videos, and here I am. So I'm sure there'll be other artists that knock what I say. Us artists, we love each other, I think, for the most part, but we all think a little different. There's nothing wrong with that. Competition makes the world go round. But yeah, I've always said if I ever started teaching, I'd make sure that they got to see everything that I do and understand how everything that I do is. Because I'd see art and I was like, well, how did he get where he's at right now? I get the detail he's doing, but how did he get to that point? So here's my chance at showing you guys. All right, so now you can see we're not just flat black. That's how I rough in my paintings. And yeah, I just said all that, and here I am starting off a painting with my first video of one on roughed in. But I couldn't help that, y'all. When I decided to do this, I already had this painting in the making, and I want to compete with the Ducks Unlimited with this picture. So y'all are getting to watch my competition painting come together. I hope that means something, because it does to me. Be nice if I win it. All right, so now we got a little bit of dark going. We're not just black anymore. It started off kind of like this. Now we're looking like this. I'm going to add a little bit more dark and bleed this. And some of these parts, if you're advanced artists, you're probably going to be bored at this point. But for new beginners, every stroke counts. And I'm here to do these videos for everybody. Brand new. Heck, you might not have ever painted yet, but you stumbled across this video and you're watching it. Well, if I can get you interested in art, that's a good thing. All right, so now we're going to start doing what most people call the fun stuff, and it is fun. Every bit of it to me is fun, but even the rough in stage is fun to me. So back up here, you can see the acrylics dries pretty fast. The trick to acrylics is usage of water. Man, I don't buy all that stuff that they sell, and for you advanced ones, you might like it, you might not. I don't really know. But I can tell you right now, I stay away from the drying varnishes. I don't care nothing about that. I like just good old water, and I keep my paint wet enough to keep moving. I did it for a few years. I used the dry varnishes that help your paint dry a little faster, and then that was when I was doing oils. And then when I started doing the acrylics, they got stuff you put in your paint that helps keep it wetter. And I just never really liked that. I like the natural water. Some things ain't about how much money you can spend. It's just knowing how to work the stuff. I also believe in finger painting while we're at it. Any source necessary that can get you what you want is the result you're looking for. I'm just showing y'all guys how I achieve what I do. So now you're starting to see the details. So right now I'm using cadmium orange and burnt sienna. These are very good earth tones. And when I start doing the paint videos that y'all can take online, it's going to get really, really detailed, y'all. They'll be very detailed in why every paint that I use, why I use them. You'll get to learn my paint palette. And like I said in the last video, y'all, I can't do that for free. I'd be giving away all my secrets. And there's a lot of dudes out there that are pretty good at art, and I just can't give them away for free. So now we're starting to see a little more detail starting to evolve and stuff. I'm going to start throwing a little more cadmium yellow and Payne's Gray. There's different colors. For this palette, I'm keeping the earth tones kind of simple. There's going to be a lot of color in this painting later on when I start doing the building and all that. And boy, I can't wait to get to some of that stuff. But that goes back to what I was saying. You got to be patient. But now what you're seeing is a lot more depth starting to develop in this this foliage up here. You can see the depth starting to come in there, the layers. So now we're going to start going into more highlight. And I love to capture this part. So this is where it really starts showing up. Now I'm using this big brush right now. It's what I call the rough end brush. It's just basically a broad detailed brush. It's not real fine. And it's going to get that rough end feel. Everything's kind of rounded for me when I first do these, because really what I'm trying to do is get some depth. And like right here, I'm trying to get the embodiment of what I'm trying to do. Now all these strokes underneath, they become very important as I start breaking out what I call the big guns, which is the smaller brushes. But they're the big guns because you really start getting into that detail right here. All right, so we're going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow, some orange, a little bit of red, but I'm going to be on the brighter side. Now we're going to come back up here. So see, that's a dry spot right here. So what I do is kind of like shooting pool. You kind of get good at this stuff. I can like a pendulum right here with that pinky finger. I'm going to drop over here. Now you see this dark area right here? That's a good area, and it don't take much. And you just kind of pop some detail right in there. Now, normally this is where artists like to show off. And me too. I'm no exception. This is the fun part, and people just go, wow, how did you do that? Well, be careful with this part, because you can get very happy and overshoot these things. Just like anybody, you see them get a little cocky. That's usually when things mess up. So you don't want to overshoot these. But yes, this is the good stuff. So as you can see, that tree right there is really dark. That's what I like to pick on. So you'll see me coming out, and trust me, we haven't got detailed yet. But this is the first starts of it. So I can come right in here, and I'm always aware of where my sun's coming from. This is out here. This is the part that's in front of the tree. This really starts separating the depth. You have edges on the edges, like this is the back edges of the tree. This is the front edges. But this is also out here where that light can shoot through these trees and hit it. So I really like to start getting my detail to start showing up right in here. Very important. Okay, now, I said on the last video, anytime you have, right here you can see a change in my foliage right here. That means I got to make a decision. Do I go in front or do I come this way? Really don't matter. It's really up to you. It's a you know, that's kind of the artist's thing, I guess. You pick which way you'd like to go through. I'll just change them up a little bit. So as you can see, I went this way instead of coming down this way. I usually love to come this way, and I'll probably do it 80% of the time, but I like to think sometimes, hey, let's change it up a little bit, because I get into a pattern. It's human nature, y'all. Since you was born, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when you're painting landscapes or anything that should look natural, you might want to think 1, 5, 2, 8, 6, 1, 10. You know, you got to mix it up. That's what makes nature look like nature. So as y'all can see, I'm using the darks of this back part up here to start making you see this detail. And that's just really how it's done. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Once you get that rough in, like I just showed you, this is where all this stuff comes in. And trust me, it's gonna kill you. You want to get in there and get that detail. See this right here? So I can put detail on this back side, but this is going to overlap this part. So if you notice, a lot of my color right now, I let the paint kind of run out, and it's kind of muted down. That gives me that muted look back in there. And y'all, I can't tell you enough. There's probably 6 or 7 different ways I could have approached this painting today. Now, I'm not saying there ain't more ways to do it than that, but I know from how I paint, I could have went about this at least 6 or 7 different ways. But I thought this would be a good way to slow it down a little bit for new people, Some of the advanced people would have probably liked two of the other ways that I would normally approach this. It's a little bit faster. But this way works for people that's never painted. It's very simple, to the point, and that's where most of my students are whenever I'm teaching them, and I keep it really simple. So we can see the separations here. So I'm going to make this one, like I showed a while ago, I went this way. This one I'm going to come down in this way. Anytime I have a place where there's a change of direction, that's where you make the change of direction with your leaves as well, because that's what's happening, is you got to change of directions. And you can see I'm keeping all my colors in the front of these things right here. Okay, so another thing to remember, you can see this side over here is a little more green and I'm a little more orange here. That hurts nothing, y'all. What I do is I adjust my colors later. I'll come in here with what I call a glaze, and I won't be able to do it on this lesson, but it's called a glaze. And I'll just glaze that color with water when it's dry. I'll come in here and glaze it. Nothing changes on detail, but I get a glaze of color that I can make it look just like this. I'll just pick up Payne's Gray and Cadmium Yellow, make that green color, and just come in here with a glaze and it'll make it look just like this without losing my detail. But you have to let it dry first. All right, so right in here, I've kind of knocked my color down a little bit, and I put some of this green in my brush just so y'all can see that I can paint those colors in here too. The only thing is, see right in here, I haven't set it up like this up here is. But I can mute my colors down at any point where I have detail. So on these back areas where you wouldn't see a whole lot of light hitting, that's where I get to mute my color, and I can put a lot of detail in that tree. And people buy my puzzles all over the world, and trust me, I thank God every day for having that. You can never be humble enough, in my opinion, and it's just been a blessing to have my art sell around the world. And the comments that I hear, y'all, the things that I'm telling y'all right now are very important to understand. That when you hear people's opinions, and you get a bunch of them, trust me, bad and good, but you take them and you learn from them. And what I've learned through the years is people really appreciate detail. And when they're putting these puzzles together, I mean, who sees more detail than puzzlers? I mean, think about that for a minute, y'all. I mean, they're looking at detail because that's what they're doing. They're trying to find pieces to these puzzles, and they see and appreciate the details. I mean, I've had so many compliments on, man, even in your trees where most artists will just kind of throw them together, you take the time and put the details in there, and that means a lot. So when you paint the next painting and people are saying that to you, hey, you know, I'm a big fan of paying attention to what people like. On the last video, I preached a lot about being a people pleaser. I think a good artist is going to be a people pleaser. There's no way around it. All right, so now that you've got a chance on 2 videos now to see how I load up the details in the front, the backs are just as important. So we're fixing to start doing that. But let me just throw a little more harsher brightness so y'all can see how much this in here will change just by going a lot brighter. Now watch this. I'm fixing to really pick on some brights and just kind of watch how the detail starts to form, and you really start feeling it. It starts to pop. See that purple right there? It's a lighter color, so I really have to be more aggressive with this color when I get out here. It's like yin and yang. So when I start doing that, all of a sudden you really start seeing that separation of detail and that color. And there ain't nothing, y'all, can't say it enough. It's fun to start putting them details in here. Now, like I said, this is not a windowsill on my house. It's not a fancy shingled roof or a tin roof. You know, it ain't a fruit stand like I like to paint. It ain't a deer. It's foliage. But to me, it may as well be the eyeball of a deer or the horns, which I love to paint. And I'm not going to say I enjoy it just as much as I would painting a deer and the horns on him, but it's important, and I know that. So I put just as much of my time and my concern and my patience into that as I would this window over here. All right, so the back sides, we're going to start doing that. So obviously I have to darken it down. It's dark on the back side because no light's getting back there. I'm simply going to take cadmium orange and Payne's Gray, and I'm going to keep it dark. And I'm going to come to this back side right here, and it's going to look the same way as what I've been doing, except it's on the back side. So you can see the front details right here. Well, the back gets it too. Now some of this I will fill in without y'all seeing once y'all have learned how I've started it. But I don't want anything to be hidden. I want y'all to understand, so when you come back on and you see this area done, you understand that you learned how I did it. And that's the biggest thing I want y'all to get out of this. It would take hours and hours and hours to show y'all every little piece, but you're getting an idea. So when I come in here, at that distance, y'all, there's no way you're gonna see the little pieces that connect the actual leaves. You can't see that. The stems, you're not gonna see that. But as you can see, I start to separate. That's what starts giving it that detail. So this back side that looks round right now, this is where I start to stretch that out and give it that real look of a tree. Kind of like that. I'm gonna come in here and make it not lazy, kind of goes down. I like things to look strong, you know, strong, healthy, you know, whatever you want to call it. But you can really put that detail in here. And don't be afraid to go to my website, y'all. Go to Geno Peoplesart. genopeoplesart.com. Check out my websites. And a lot of this stuff that I'm showing y'all right here, you'll see finished paintings. And it'll give you more of an idea of a finished result of what you're seeing right here. That's what my students do. They like to go to my websites. I tell them during the week, hey, I ain't got time to have you come over and work on your stuff as much as I'd like to. I have other things I have to do. Right now I'm trying to get ready for my deer hunting. But they'll go to my website and they'll look at, oh, you're right, I didn't even have to bother you or bother myself with you. So they can see my paintings. And now a lot of them, they're getting personal art lessons. Don't get much better than that. I get to actually talk to them and hurt their feelings. No, I'm just kidding. I am. Some of them say I'm mean, but I expect perfection, no less. And that's it. I like them to give me their best. And I've made some good artists out of some of my students. I'm telling you, they the ones that really want it, that want to go get it, and they work at it, they grow, and there's nothing better than that to see them grow like that. Anyway, I hope the video is letting y'all see this in detail. I'm gonna go a little bit darker so y'all can see it. But basically what I do is I feed this in here, and that gives that back side the same look as the front side. Very important that you show that. I see a lot of artists that do not do this, and it's so important. You have your negatives too. So earlier I told y'all about coming in here with my darks. So just kind of watch how I start down in here in this negative spot right here, which makes my lights work. I also come back in here. There's no process that's wrong unless it just don't look right. But I tell people all the time when they say, don't you got to start with the farthest things first and come forward? Well, I'll tell you this, y'all. Nothing is wrote in stone when it comes to paintings, to painting with acrylic for sure. But there's different processes to everything. And yes, that's, I guess, the basic principle, to start with your distant stuff and then overlap as you come forward. It's a basic principle, but it's not a fact. That is not how I paint for sure. And like I said, y'all, I don't know many artists personally, so I only know what I've learned, and I've learned that that's not true. So when I hear an artist say that, of course I don't call them out. I just, okay, well, they do their thing. But no, you can go in and out. There is certain times though you want to call it a day with whatever you're doing in the distance, because it can be overpainted. You can mess up. You can go in there and cost yourself something where you say, well, man, I'm gonna have to put another tree right there to cover up that to cover up that tree that don't look real good or whatever. You know, you can go into places where you shouldn't have and make a boo-boo. But most things can be fixed. I mean, I have to fix my students. It seems like every week I call myself the fixer. But I've learned more teaching than I ever have learning on my own. I see mistakes that, I mean, I made a bunch of them, but just be honest here, I've seen mistakes that I couldn't have imagined me doing. I just wouldn't have went there, I guess, or I just wouldn't have took that chance. No, whatever the deal is, there's just, I see so much that I probably would have never done that. Anyway, you can see now I'm starting to add a little bit of green. I just wanted y'all to see there's a lot of different ways that you can paint. I can actually add the green details instead of just doing a glaze. I can actually come in here and start adding these. You know, art is there's so many things you can do with it, but the end result is what you're looking for. So I'm gonna come back out and talk to y'all for a second. So as you just seen, there's so many different ways that you can go about this foliage, but the end result's what really counts. I have six to maybe 10 different ways that I'll go about a certain painting, and every painting's different. I never have two paintings that are the same, unless I paint the same exact painting, and it better look better the second time. But no, I guess my point is, whenever you're painting, understand that if you're watching me and you're watching 4 other artists paint, you need to pick one that you really like and you kind of stay with them. Because when you start getting around, I mean, I've had students come in for years that's been painting with me and say, hey, I started following such and such. I hope you don't get upset or nothing. Well, of course I'm not going to get upset. I'm glad you watch another artist. Artist is art. I promote other artists. I've got good friends that I let my students to go look at and see what they're doing. But you can be confused by the way they go about their work and the way I go about mine. They'll try to use their paints with the paints that we're using. That stuff starts, you know, that can start being a problem. You got to find the path and you kind of stick with it. Now, like I said, I have 8 to 10 different ways I could have approached this today. Depends on what I'm painting, which obviously, you know, if I'm painting something that's not going to have a whole lot of foliage, it's going to be mostly my clouds, I'd have probably went a little flatter, not put quite so much detail so it wouldn't take away from my clouds. So there would have been different ways I could have approached that. But the bottom line is, depending on what you're painting, how you go about it. I'm going to try to get from point A to point C in a straight line as fast as I can get there without going around the corner. So there's different ways to approach it. But today was about a tutorial to teach maybe some beginners that's never painted before. And this is one of the easiest ways I can do it and stay on pace, where it's easier for you to follow and understand. There's other ways that, you know, you can kind of get lost in like, well, what all is that he's doing? And if I wasn't telling you exactly what I was doing, you probably wouldn't understand it anyway. Big brushes, it's just kind of slapped on there. It's a lot faster way to get there, but if you don't do it right, you end up coming back with the details anyway. So, well, today that's going to be enough. Be looking for my next video. We're going to start trying to put out 2 or 3 a week for sure, maybe 4. And y'all be blessed.